You want an IUD because you want no baby D. You want your body T and you tryna get freaky. You need to watch me talk about my IUD. My story is a key, so let's get into this heat. We finally got an IUD positive story, baby. Okay, let's get into it. Wait a minute, let me introduce myself. Hola, my name is daljiimarax. This is not my usual content. There will not be a follow-up, but you can still stick around, okay? On this channel, I practice languages, I speak 5 languages, and I solo travel everywhere, okay? And I also do video essays about the culture, so you should watch those too. Anyway, let's due to that orange convicted felon pedophile orangutan looking mother effer that happens to be our president of the United States, baby, women's rights is getting snatched left and right. Left and right, yes. So, you know, everybody and their mama, the menopause people included, doing everything in their power to prevent unplanned pregnancies. And I feel you. Even though I really can't get pregnant right now, no way, because ain't nobody to get pregnant by. We still got to take all precautions, okay? All right. So since IUD seems to be the most popular, you know, birth control right now, I figured I'd talk about my positive experience. Yes. We got a lot of good news. We got a little bit of bad news, but we got lots of good news. So if you are considering an IUD as a form of birth control due to the climate of this world or just in general, I got you. I got you, baby. So I'm going to be looking at my laptop, so I promise I'm not like doing other stuff. So I wrote some notes because we gonna hit everything, okay? I wanted to get a birth control that was going to last very long because, as we know, that man is trying to take away all of basically rights women have when it comes to their reproductive health. So I was like, I don't want to have to get something that I would have to continuously like get refilled or get checked up on. So that's why I chose this birth control specifically. It's the longest lasting one, basically. I personally have the Mirena. This is the hormonal IUD, and the benefits of it is about 99% effective. It lasts up to 8 years. I think mine's expires in 2000. I have the card somewhere. 2030 something. 2030 something. A long time. Other benefits, it may reduce menstrual bleeding or even stop it completely. Side effects, irregular bleeding, some pain, cramping during the insertion, a little bit after, increased risk of pelvic inflammatory disease, and yeah. So that's a little bit about the Mirena. There's another one called the Copper ID, which is the non-hormonal one. That's also another popular one. But I chose the Mirena because I want to stop or minimize my periods. That was the biggest thing for me. I know some women choose the non-hormonal because they don't want it to change their hormones, and also they want to have periods for reassurance if they are sexually active. I am not, regardless, so that doesn't matter, but I want to get rid of periods, okay? That was my #1 reasoning. If it's going to make them like less heavy or erase them, I want that. So that's why I specifically chose Mirena. That was the only reason why. It had nothing to do with hormonal, non-hormonal. I don't care about that. Who cares? From top to bottom, once I realized, okay, I want this IUD because it's the longest lasting birth control, and it's less risk that if I choose like maybe the pill and funding get cut or it becomes illegal or something like that, I don't have to worry about that. So that's one. Once I decided that, I started looking for places that was able to do the IUD insertion, like if I needed to do any consultation, all that. Everybody named mama booked out. I know there are some states and counties, it's like they booked out for weeks, like they doing IUDs all day every day for months. And so some people, it could take months or even longer than that to do that. So my friend was like, check out Planned Parenthood. I was like, I keep forgetting Parenthood is more than abortions, because that's all you think about when you think of Planned Parenthood. Baby, they got so many freaking resources when it comes to women's health. It's amazing. Anyway, I looked up Planned Parenthood to see if I could do that. But first, I knew, one, I've never got a pap smear before. I'm 28 years old. I was always scared to do it. I was like, let me just do that as well. And I was up for an STD check because it's been like 2 years. Even though I haven't had any symptoms or anything, I was like, let me just go ahead and do that. So I set an appointment to get STD check and then a consultation for IUD in the same day. So this was December. So I did all that in the first day, got my STD checked, test Why I keep saying check? STD test. And I talked to a doctor at Planned Parenthood, and they went through everything. And I specifically told her, I don't want the one that stops periods. She was like, okay, that's Mirena, that's the hormonal one. She talked to me through it about how the process and things like that. I asked her 8,000 questions. I told her I've seen all the horror stories on TikTok and everything. I'm not going to hold you. It's not a walk in the park. I recommend you take some type of painkiller, ibuprofen beforehand, blah blah blah. I was like, bet, sign me up. So after my appointment, I applied to get the insertion. That took about 3 weeks. That was their next available appointment. So if you're somebody who has an interest for this, at very least hurry up and get a consultation. Even if you're still on the fence about it, and try to get, after your consultation, try to book some time, because you may not be able to get it right away. I thought they was going to be like, okay, you coming next week. No, it was at least like 3 weeks in between my consultation for it and the actual appointment itself. So if you can get a consultation as soon as you watch this video and you're kind of on a fence, and go to your primary care doctor or a Planned Parenthood like this, do that, because it can take some time. The appointment, day of the appointment comes, what happens again, they have to test you for STDs and pregnancy again, I believe. And I did a pap smear and a IUD in the same day, because I'm already about to be opened up, so there was no point in making separate appointments. So I did the pregnancy test and all that, and then it was time to do it. So the first thing they do is they ask you multiple times, you want the Mirena, you want the, like, she confirmed which IUD I was getting over and over again, which I was loving that. Like, yes, please don't give me that copper one, because I want these periods gone. So she kept, you know, at least 3 times before they actually got up in there, she confirmed Mirena. We're doing Mirena. I was like, yes, girl. I love me some reassurance. Yes, girl. They put that first. First they put a finger up in there to test the length of your vaginal canal, and then they do that scary looking metal opener. I don't know what it's called. First of all, I thought that was going to be like, oh my God. When they put it in there, I'm like, oh. First of all, that made me realize how far up, how I guess short your vaginal canal is. Because I thought I was going to feel that up in my stomach. It felt like, I don't even know what to call it. It felt like pressure, I guess. I guess that's the perfect way to, but I barely, not that I'm saying I barely felt it. Obviously I felt it in there, but it was more awkward because my legs is wide open and I'm half naked from the bottom up in 2 strangers. It was more awkward than I felt any uncomfortability, at least at that part, okay? So then she's walking me through every step. Okay, we're grabbing this, we're doing this, good job. The other person, is 2 people in there. One, she's like a trainee, and then there's a doctor that's monitoring everything, okay? She's like, good job, da-da-da-da. And then they did the pap smear part, and I'm like, and I felt them do the brush where they do a swab. If you don't know what a pap smear is, go Google that and watch the videos. And I was like, oh, okay. I've been waiting all this time to get a pap smear, and that's it. That's I was like, oh. So pap smear, I waited and I was scared for nothing. Okay, nothing. Anyway, they did the pap smear part, and then they did something where they had to, I forget the next piece, before they put the actual IUD in. I don't know if it's cleaning it or doing, oh, they have to put those other scary looking tweezer things to open it up. Okay, they have to do that part. And I felt that, and I was like, okay, what part is this? And they're like, okay, we just opened it up, so we're ready to put the IUD in. When they're putting the IUD in, I'm like, oh, I felt the pressure. I felt the cramps. I felt the, oh my God, I started getting a little dizzy. I'm like, woo. Ooh, I'm laying there, and I thought I had 0 tolerance for pain. I guess I do. So I'm laying there. It feels very crampy. And I do feel very lightheaded, and I'm like, ooh, I'm doing my breathing, and then they finish it, and it's kind of just you're still stuck there in that moment, because it's like, oh my God. One, this is very awkward because I'm laying here again naked in front of these 2 strangers, and they're putting things in me and taking things out. They started taking everything out, boom, 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 and then I laid there, and I was still just a little bit crampy, but not too much. And then I just had to pull myself together. Probably about another 30 seconds, and I sat up and I was fine. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. So if I had to explain what it felt like, think of the worst period cramps you've ever had. It is that for about 3 minutes. The entire thing, if there wasn't a pap smear involved, would have probably been 5 minutes. From the moment you put your legs up, they do everything, they put it in, they take it out, it's over. That would be 5 minutes. But the pain, I guess you would call it, I wouldn't call it pain. I don't think period cramps are painful. Like, painful to me is hitting your shin on the middle part of your bed. Painful as me is hitting your head up against the, like, painful as me is falling off your bike. And like, you know, like, I don't know, cramps and pain, I just see those as two different measurements of uncomfortability. But if I would have to compare it to something, think of the worst period cramps you've ever had. Like, say you on your period and you forgot to take your ibuprofen or your Midol or your Pamprin, and you waiting for it to kick in and it's killing you, and then once it kicks in, you're good. Think of that for 3 consecutive minutes and you're good. If you can endure period cramps, you can endure this. I would say it was more uncomfortable than it was painful, just because of everything. You were sitting there, booty out, 2 strangers up inside you, putting things in, you taking stuff out. The tools look scary as hell. It's I would say it's more of a psychological thing, like your brain tricking you into this being a more scary experience than the actual experience itself. Because I tell you, it's very quick, and it's just like period cramps. If you've had period cramps, you've alive. I've had periods since I was 10 years old and I'm still fine. Then you'll be good. That's what I think about that. So for me, I would say the pain, uncomfortability was about an 8, but because it was so quick, it's like, okay, whatever. So any day after that happened, I was fine. But I will say I did, maybe a couple hours later, I started to feel a little bit of crampy, and I had maybe 1, 2, 3 spots of blood. And I mean spots, I mean, ooh, a little spot. So the spotting didn't last. They said that there could be spotting that could happen maybe a couple days, maybe a couple hours. It was maybe a couple drops, and that was it. I did feel a tiny bit crampy, a little bit, but it wasn't that big of a deal. Overall, pain level, cramp level, whatever you want to call it, 8 out of 10, but it's really fast. So it's really fast. And again, I don't measure period cramps as pain. I just feel like they're just, I don't know. I don't see that as pain. I see that as something different. I don't know how another word to explain it. But when I think of something being painful, I think of like, I got punched in the face, I got stabbed, you know what I mean? I hope y'all understand what I mean by this. Goes really fast, and I had great care providers. So this is going to help us to our next section of this. Okay. So I, like many people, have watched all of the horror story videos of people talking about their terrible IUD experiences. And I went into this thinking that this is going to be one of the most painful things I ever endure in life. And as you can tell by this video, I had a great experience. Well, that's a weird way to say it, a positive experience, if I may say. Here are some things in this segment. I want to talk about things to consider when it comes to an IUD, when it comes to people's reviews on IUD, because I noticed a pattern of things that people talked about when they talked about their negative experiences with IUD. Number 1, a lot of those people said that they had piss poor care. A lot of people said that their care provider was like, oh no, you won't feel a thing, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Like I just mentioned to y'all, when I had my consultation, she said, I'm not gonna lie to you, babes, it's going to be uncomfortable, take something beforehand, the insertion is not pleasant. Yeah, no. Some people have straight up have said in their videos and Reddit and whatever you know place I saw these reviews, that they were told that it wasn't that uncomfortable or it wasn't that painful. No, babes, if I went into that thinking that, I can understand how that could be a terrible experience, and felt that, even though I don't think it was that painful, if somebody told me it wasn't and that's what it felt like, I would feel bamboozled 110%. So one, they were lied to by their care providers, and their care providers, I've seen a lot of people say that they made them feel very uncomfortable. They were very cold. They were dismissive when they asked lots of questions. They basically came into it like they just trying to get it out the way. Like it's just something they got to check off their list. They weren't really caring for their patient. So if one, you've been told that it wasn't that painful, it wasn't that uncomfortable, it's just a little pinch, it's just a little cramping, blah blah blah, they underplay it, and then they walking in here to the patient room like, all right, let's get this done. That is a bad experience. You had piss poor care. So that's one thing to consider when you are watching people's reviews, you're reading reviews about IU experience. Pay attention to the care that that individual person got. That's one. And next thing that I think is different, everybody's area, vaginal canal, vagina, uterus, fallopian, all is different. So it's shaped different. Some people's are to the side. Some people have, like, everybody's isn't a one size fit all. So that can also be a determining factor of whether or not your experience is painful or less than. So that can also be another thing. Again, another thing. So people's tolerance is higher or lower. I thought I had a very low pain tolerance, but then this is supposed to be one of the most painful things a woman could do. Like, I've seen people say that this was worse than giving birth. If this was worse than giving birth, then that, to me, birth would not be painful at all. It would be a walk in the park. I don't know how any woman could complain about birth being hard. You know what I mean? Like, if that is better, I mean, if that is worse than birth, oh, I could have 10, 15, 20 babies, like, literally. But again, that goes back to they probably had piss poor care, or their vagina canal and uterus and all that and cervix is built different, literally. So that's another thing to consider when you see negative reviews. Now, this is not me to dismiss anybody's experience and be like, oh, they're lying or this, that. But those are things to consider, because I had great care. I'm not sure, I don't think there's any abnormal things about my cervix or my vaginal canal, so that wasn't you know, when they were inserting the clamps and the openers, there wasn't an issue there. So I'm pretty sure it's normal down there, so that could also be a factor. And then again, everybody's just fucking different. So what I'm saying is, this was a positive experience. You can find 10 videos of people saying this was the worst experience of their lives. Take everybody's experience with a grain of salt, good and bad. That's the best rule of thumb. That's the best way to measure whether or not your experience is going to be good or not. That's that, okay? So next, I want to talk about my 1 month update. So it has been a month since I've had my IUD insertion. When they talk about one of the side effects is having irregular periods, I probably started my period when I was 11 years old. I have never in my entire life had an irregular period. My period has been the same at 11 up until now at 28 years old. It's always been 5 days. The first 3 days are heavy. That fourth day is like medium. That last day is kind of like that day where it's like, it'll be light or non-existent, or it'll be one heavy flow, like one gush. That sounds so gross. And then it'll be light, and then it'll be gone and turn into like the brown-ish, reddish blood, and then it'll be gone that 6th day. It's always been that same way. Very heavy, and then it gets like irregular last day, and then it's gone. 5 days, always been that same way since I was 11 years old. Even when I was on birth control, I was on birth control before I was on the pill. That did make my period a little lighter, but it was still like heavier, and then it gradually got down. This time I'm having my first period since having this IUD insertion. The first 2 days, it was just like the brown type of blood that you get, you know, it's almost like a gooey-ish consistency. So I'm like, dang, this kicked in already. I thought I was gonna have a period for a couple of months. So I'm like, okay, bet, my periods are gone. Baby, that 3rd day is heavy. Next day, heavy. Next day, irregular. Next day, back to being heavy. I'm on like day 7, day 8 right now. I have never had a regular period, so this is the most irritating thing ever. I feel bad for women who just have this naturally, because every day I'm like, okay, do I wear a tampon? Do I wear a pad? Do I wear a heavy one? Do I do a regular one? Do I do a super? It's just so up and down, and this is the longest I've ever had. It's always been 5 days over the past 15 years. And I was like, I'm on day 7, day 8. When is it going to be over? But then again, this is one of the side effects, and this can happen for a couple months until it really like kicks in, and I'm fine with that. But I have never in my entire life, as long as I've had a period, had irregular periods. It has been the same exact flow for 5 days per month, and this is the first time it's irregular, and it's all over the place and it's lasting forever and I'm sick of it. That's annoying. That's very annoying. So final thoughts. If you are like me and you want to no longer have periods or like lower the chances of them, even though that's not my case right now because it takes a couple months to kick in, I would recommend Mirena. I would recommend you do a consultation and really like vet out the person. If they have an issue with you asking 8 million questions like I did, then you're probably gonna have piss poor care when it comes time to it. And this is not something that you want to have a doctor that really don't feel like doing there, that really don't feel like being there, and really don't want to like comfort you. This is very vulnerable and very uncomfortable and very awkward. So you need to find somebody that's going to be like down to be nice to you and treat you with care like a human being, like all doctors should be. Again, and lastly, even though this is a positive experience and I recommend everybody get this that's considering it, I am one person. This is my experience, and taking into consideration I had great care and I don't have like an abnormal vagina or cervix. Okay, when you are listening to the negative reviews, take into consideration the things that made that experience negative, and that may or may not apply to you. You may watch this video and be like, all right, yes, that's the go I needed, and you have your insertion and it is the worst experience ever. That may happen. That is a chance of that happening. I don't know, but I just wanted to put a little bit of light and talk about so far so good. I hope y'all stick around for my traveling language videos though. That would be nice.